Good morning, everybody, to this third day of the Innovation Challenge for Southern Africa on food security and agriculture risk. My name is Diego Arias. I'm a lead economist in the World Bank, and today we're going to go to the third challenge, which is on agricultural data. And we will start straight with the first candidate. I would like to remind everybody who's connected to please mute if you're not talking. And for those of you who are watching via YouTube and you would like to leave a comment or ask a question, please sign in with your Google account, your Gmail or any other email accounts that joined with Google, and then the chat function will appear, and we will be monitor that, and to the extent that we can bring some questions from the outside audience, we will. For social media, please use hashtag #agriskfinancing and tag us so that we can retweet the messages. So I would like to start by presenting today our grand jury, our 6 judges that will be asking questions and judging the proposals to choose a winner. Today we have, as I mentioned, 6 judges that come from different institutions and from different regions. So I'm going to start presenting each one of the judges, and I will ask the judges once I introduce them to unmute and say hello and tell me if you can hear us okay, so that we can ensure that we hear you. So we're going to start with Cristina Stefan. Cristina, are you there? Can you hear me, Cristina?
Yes. Can you hear me, Diego? Sorry.
Yes, thanks. So Cristina is our senior risk monitoring special at the World Bank. She's leading the design and implementation of World Bank initiatives across different sectors, doing risk modeling and early warning systems, integrating conflict, natural disasters, food insecurity, and pandemics. And she focused on product design and pricing, and leads initiatives with international organizations for developing parametric sovereign insurance products, trying to close the epidemic insurance gap and improving containment measures for countries considered to be at risk. Cristina, thanks for joining. Parmesh, are you there?
Hi, Diego. Yes, Parmesh here. Very good to be here.
Thanks, Parmesh, for joining. Parmesh Shah is our global lead for rural livelihoods and agriculture jobs at the World Bank. He provides with leadership to the bank work in the areas that support global knowledge and learning to offer solutions to clients and development partners. And he has been involved in many rural poverty reduction and inclusive growth programs in many countries, and he has worked previously with governments and civil society and foundations, and he leads the team that looks at digital agriculture in Africa. So Parmesh, thanks for being with us. We have Natalia. Are you connected?
Yes. Hi, everyone.
Welcome, Natalia. Thanks for joining. So Natalia Olson Urtecho, she's a serial entrepreneur with more than 20 years experience in international, regional, and local institutions in Latin America, Central Europe, Asia, and the US. And she's right now Chief Operations Officer with Radical Exchange Foundation, and she has co-founded the Disruptive Factory. She has worked in the US government in the small business agency, I believe, as a regional administration, managing $35 billion of government contracts, and 8 billion in loans to small medium enterprises in the US. She knows very well what these innovation challenges are about, and so we are very great to have her participate today. We have Hervé. Hervé, are you connected?
Yes, hi Diego, I am connected.
Great. Hervé, thanks for joining. Hervé Trebossen, he holds a PhD in Geographic Information Sciences from the University of Marne-la-Vallée in France, entitled Contributing Synthetic Aperture Radar Imagery to Coastal Marine Cartography and working on tropical humid zones in Africa. He has 20 years of experience in Earth observation, applied to the management of natural resources, and has worked in many organizations such as the Saharan Sahel Observatory, the Interstate Committee for Drought Control in the Sahel, and the AgriMet Regional Center and the European Space Agency. So Hervé, thanks for joining us today. Nelly, are you connected?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Nelly. Thanks for joining. Nelly Orlova, she's a serial entrepreneur and business angel. Nelly has over 10 years of experience working with international startup and venture market, supporting innovative projects for market entry and fundraising needs. She's also the board member of Swiss Russian Forum, Suvorov Innovation Award, and Artificial Intelligence, AI, and Blockchain Summit. Her main mission is helping technological startups from the market developing world to get access to international market, knowledge and expertise, and financial resources. So Nelly's gonna be making the hard questions on business models for these startups. We finally have Pedro. Pedro, are you there? Pedro Dossi.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you, sir.
Hi, Pedro. So Pedro is a project manager and coordinator for the government Angola for the commercial agriculture development project, and Pedro studied in the US. I just noticed that the bio for Pedro is missing, but I'll put it up at the end of this first challenge. So Pedro, thanks very much for joining. Pedro was also a grand jury judge of last year's Agriculture and Food Security Innovation Challenge that was held in London. So he will bring the continuity with Christina on the judging of the top innovators for the Southern Africa region. So without further ado, I'm going to start the Shark Tank. We'll have 5 minutes of pitch by each candidate, and then a 15-minute Q&A. So again, for those of who connected to YouTube, you can write your comments and questions in the chat function in YouTube. For those in WebEx, you can do so in WebEx. Okay, so our first candidate is Krishna. Krishna, are you connected?
I'm there.
Great, excellent. So Krishna Kumar, he's founder and CEO of Cropping Technology Solutions based in India. So Krishna, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'll allow you to share your screen. And whenever you're ready, start your presentation and we'll start the clock. Over to you, Krishna.
Thanks. Can you all see my screen right now?
Yes, go ahead.
Great. So I can get started. Great. Hello, everyone. My name is actually Kunal. I'm the co-founder. Krishna couldn't represent because he was busy somewhere else. So I'm going to represent my organization, Cropping, and I'm the co-founder and CEO at my organization. Thank you so much, first of all, for this wonderful opportunity to help us present our work and to explore partnerships in this wonderful initiative, which is impacting food security and agriculture financing. As we all know that agriculture data is very important, and the world of agriculture is going to transform in much faster way using agriculture data. So that's what Cropping is doing, and we are trying to leverage agriculture data and help agribusinesses, institutions which are working with thousands and hundreds of thousands of farmers to use technology to help engage with them from the time they are sowing till the time they are able to finance and sell the produce to the market. The solutions that we offer are institutional. It's a B2B solution. So they in turn give these applications to their field team. The field team can then capture information through mobile-based application, and that's where the data gets connected into our platform. Our existence has been for the last 9 years, and the promise that we have for the customers is basically we will give you the cutting-edge technology solutions to help you manage your business better. We launched our Smart Farm product, which is a complete farm management solution back in 2012, along with the Smartware, smart supply chain solution, and then the Smart Sales solution, which is more on the improving the sales applications for selling inputs and finance. And then the Smart Raise solution, basically helping agriculture, insurance companies, and the banks to help them lend to the farmers. Finally, we have a farmer application as well, which helps agribusinesses to engage with the farmers on real-time basis. So what does Cropin bring to the platform here? We have a complete farm management solution, which means every single organization which is working with a set of farmers, they have a field representative on the ground, and we help them, their field representative, with a set of mobile applications, so that when they are working with hundreds and more number of farmers in their locations, they can capture every single information about their farmers. So we know that the farm, what the basic information of the farmer is there, the social economic conditions. If they have multiple plots, the geolocation of those plots, they can survey the areas. And once the farmer starts the cropping, we know exactly what crop the farmer is growing, what is the variety, and then during the cropping season, capture the entire information about package of practices, utilize inputs in terms of fertilizers, chemicals used, pests and disease infestation that was brought, and finally, at the end, when the harvest is there, then we also have the information about the harvest, which finally came out as a result of all the interventions. So that's what is the complete farm management solution that we have to offer. Once we have the agriculture data collected at one single platform, we basically connect these data to different ecosystems to increase the per acre value. So we help agribusinesses, including input companies, insurance companies, farming companies, government institutions, all of them on a single platform, the agriculture data platform. So what we do is help them drive their entire decisions based on data. The three layers are structuring your data, which means when the farm data coming from the field, you can capture and structure them. Second is build your insights and reports. And third is use the machine learning and AI to give you much more predictive and prescriptive advisories. This is the key strength and the Cropin edge, that we have a data network effect. All the data which is coming from the smart farm, which means we have currently 2.1 million farmers across from different parts of the world. The data gets captured for every single season, and this is feeding into my machine learning and AI model, which helps me in terms of improving my models for predicting my crop acreage, in terms of stress, in terms of yield predictions, which is then used by banks and financial insurance in terms of de-risking their portfolios. These are some of the things that this is how the platform looks like. You can actually go and see every single farm's plot. You can manage your insurance and risk with these farmers and try to underwrite the loans using this information. The layers that we offer to businesses are mostly four. The platform comes in a complete SaaS base, so we take care of the entire infrastructure. We have the 5 product which is offered, so customers can choose any of them. We have additional data coming from satellite, weather, drones, and IoTs to basically help the baseline data to be much more smarter and predictable. And then all of these gets in the form of an analytics, which is then provided to all the customers through an API layer. So you can integrate your solution into ours and get as much of structured data or insight from the platform that we offer. We have a strong 185-member team working in different segments. And we have also been invested by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Ian Khalil is one of the directors that represent that organization. This is our complete work that we have done. So overall, we have experience of working in 52 different countries. We are also present in Africa. We have worked with almost 207 different clients in different segments. 388 different crops are captured, and then we have 2.1 million farmers data. So what we have to offer is a complete data of 300,000 farmers and 350,000 acres of farmland in 11 different countries that we can offer. We can partner with the institutions that we have partnered with in terms of bringing this transformation in the African subcontinent. Thank you so much.
Great, excellent. Thank you, Kunal, and right on time. So I'm going to start now collecting a few questions. So Kunal, if you want to write them down, because you will get a few questions at a time. You can stop sharing your screen, but you can use slides to help you answer questions if you would like. So let me start with Pedro from Angola. Pedro, You have any questions, Kunal?
Yeah, Diego, thank you. Thank you, Kunal, for that presentation. I have mostly two. I see that you already have like a working prototype of that solution that you have. My first question will be in terms of accessibility to your data, because it seems like you have a very proprietary data that you're going to be using to develop your product. How can people, let's say, for example, I'm looking mostly for the SADC region, these poor countries, trying to improve their predictability of developing risk innovation products. How can they get access to your data? That's one problem, one question that I have. The other one is I like to look at your data quality. You know, we know that the data that you collect is needs for some sort of objective measurement, observed phenomena. But there is also a need that this data to be replicated by some other people. This implies creating some kind of standards and grant free access to these data. So what kind of standards that your company will be using, and how do you plan to collaborate with these different scientific communities, especially those in the SADC region? Those are like the first two questions that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Pedro. I would like to also ask Nelly. Nelly, do you have any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Diego, and thank you, Kunal, for an impressive pitch deck. I have the question regarding your business modeling and some financials, because it's really quite impressive traction in the development of your product in different regions, but I didn't hear any significant data about financial traction. So how are your current partners and customers which are using your product they're paying you, and what feedback do you get from them? This is one question. And another question I would like is to ask you to give some comparison with your competitors, if you have any. I guess you analyzed your competitive landscape. Thank you.
Okay, Kunal, back to you. You have two questions from Pedro and two questions from Nelly.
Okay, thanks. So Pedro, on the data usage, as I said, so we have close to 300,000 farmer data in that region. Primarily, what we offer is a complete structure. So this data is coming from different partners that we work with. So we are working with TechnoServe partners in Kaju. We are working with Plexus Cotton on the cotton value chain, and these institutions which are working with hundreds and thousands of farmers in that region. Now, what we primarily can offer right now is that quality of data coming from the platform can be assured by the sense that these data is being used by this business to transact on a day-to-day basis. When the seeds are being supplied by the institutions, they record it. When the harvest is procured by the institution, they record it. So every transaction that's happening on the platform is having a physical movement as well, and that's what is the assurance of that particular data. Now, how do we bring this value to this particular partnership? Is this quality data of my Plexus or a customer like Incaju or a TechnoServe can be brought together to research institutions to come and start working on top of them and give them additional solutions. Like, they are not invested right now into agriculture financing, but if we can bring an innovative solution for them to finance this set of farmers in these regions, then it can be a collaboration and a win-win for the farmer, the institution Plexus, as well as the stakeholders which are bringing additional services. So that's our collaboration model. We have worked on many such collaboration models, which are like farmer collectives getting market linkages. They are getting access to inputs, and then they are getting access to finance on a single data platform. So that's, I think, one of the very innovative ways in which we would be able to enable the data usage. The second question, obviously, of the data quality, I tried to answer. The business model for us is a SaaS base. I covered that particular part, that we are a SaaS-based company. We offer solutions to across the value chain. So input companies, seed companies, farming companies, development agencies, name them, and they are using our platform for creating an impact. So either farm data digitization, climate change, or a traceability based impact of work that they're doing. So this is the business model is we charge them based on per farmer or per acre. So it starts like at a scale, it can be as less as $1 per farmer per acre for the complete solution end to end for a single year. Now, compared to a comparison with the competitors, so being in the industry for the last 9 years now, I think we have been in that leadership position. And many of the customers, including Syngenta, Bayer, BASF, TechnoServe, World Bank, IFC, USAID, DFID, all of them have used our products in implementing various programs, and that's brought in the sturdiness in our platform. That's what differentiates us from any other competitor or any other institution which is working, is the quality of our experience and the quality of the work that we have done with these past institutions. I hope I have tried and answered those questions. Thank you.
So we have now Parmesh. Parmesh, do you have any questions?
Okay, yes. Thanks a lot, Kunal. Very good presentation. Can you tell us, if you were rolling this out in the Southern Africa region, how will you roll this out? And the second question is that, do you build local capacity as you roll it out and create a local ecosystem to accompany your expertise? Thank you.
Thank you, Parmesh. Natalia, do you have any questions?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Natalia.
Great
Your virtual background
presentation.
too.
Great presentation. A couple things. You're a 9-year-old company, which is amazing. What are your next milestones? Because when we're working with the World Bank and everything, that what is your vision for the next 5 years? How are you going to grow this company to be really global? And then the second thing, your intellectual property. Do you guys own? Do you have those patents? Are you working on new patents? Is there something in particular that could be that the World Bank could actually be able to use, or others, and so on? Thank you.
Thanks, Natalia. So over to you, Kunal, for answering these
Great.
questions.
Thanks. So, Parmesh, on your question on terms of local part, so how do we basically engage in different regions? So we explore partnerships in those regions. Like if you talk about the Southern Africa, we have partnered with Solidaridad, Incaju, TechnoServe. Then we have also partnered with institutions like Agra, which are bringing very large transformational programs in those regions. So primarily our model our vision is to work with 20 million farmers in the next 3 years. And we have reached close to 2.1 million right now. So for us to reach to the larger mass with a very strong solution, it requires partnerships. And that's where we are, that's what is a model to leverage institutions which are already working with the farmers in those regions to equip them, strengthen them in terms of them creating much larger value for the set of farmers. When we create this impact, we partner with institutions like I'm talking about Incaju, which is a cashew nut value chain in Mozambique, which works with 120,000 farmers in that particular region. So when we bring this digital transformation program, they have recruited close to 98 field team on the ground, which are like the local entrepreneurs there. So these entrepreneurs are then doing spray operations. They are supplying the seedlings, and they are collecting the cashew nut and giving it back to the business. So if you see that when a large program is implemented, it creates its own ecosystem, and the local expertise is very much important, because all of the local experience is what really helps people to change their behavior and get attracted to the program that they are interested in implementing. We are just a technology provider. We help them with the best-in-class technology, and all of the local experience and the local expertise is used to implement these programs. Coming to the next question, in terms of a milestone, we really want to be a data-led company. For the first 5 years, we were primarily helping institutions to collect the data, but now the transformation is happening, and every single institution is now talking about predictive and prescriptive advisories for their business, the data, so that they can build their strategy based on that. So a lot of investment that we are doing is on AI and machine learning to how to use agricultural data to predict and understand things in advance, help the farmers in terms of advisories on either pest and disease, in terms of crop planning, in terms of expected market price, where they can have the linkages and things around that. We do also have a lot of crop models built as a result of that, because if I have to predict a region, I have to build my crop models, my AI-based models. So the large data that we get from a platform, close to 2.1 million farmer, every season this new crops are being picked up and we get a fresh data from there. So we have a huge amount of data, a fresh data that is there. So this helps us in terms of tweaking our, so though we could say that we have a great crop model, but what happens is every time a new situation arises and then you again train your model based on those new information, and the model again changes to bring in the next level of accuracy. So we have a model, the way of modeling that, but in terms of IP, I think the brand and the results that we offer in terms of accuracy is the IP that protects us from or differentiates us from any other institution or a competition.
Thank you. Hervé, over to you for questions.
Yes, thank you very much for this very interesting solution. Yes, I have two questions indeed. My first question is you mentioned some of your customers, but can you please share in depth the feedbacks from your customers in Africa? And the second question I have is much more technological question. You mentioned that you are using remote sensing and satellites data. Can you give me much more details on which type of data you are using to, I think, monitor or to map the crops? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hervé. Christina, over to you for questions.
I have only one question, and it goes back to the business model. You mentioned that there is a subscription that is paid by your clients to access the data.
Can you?
And I'm wondering, since this is for the public sector, how would you approach this idea that it's a pay-per usage, and we are trying to build capacity in the countries and give access to the data? How would you price that?
Great, thanks.
Okay, Kunal, over to you.
Great, thank you. So feedback on Africa, I think we have very good feedback coming from the customers that we have engaged in that region. To give you example of Inkaju project, so there are two I'll explain. One is Inkaju, which is a cashew nut value chain program. The program is Government of Mozambique implemented program, which works with close to 1.4 million farmers in that particular region. The first year when we engaged with TechnoServe, they brought in us as a technology partner. We worked with 100,000 farmers the first 2 years of engagement. They have really seen the value of the platform, and now they have increased the coverage from 100,000 to 200,000 farmers for the next 2 years. This fund is being brought in from Norwegian government, so they are implementing this program, and so the repeat of the program has happened because the results of the first phase was really interesting for them to go and scale it up. So that's the feedback. I think the results is something that talks, and the repeat customer is something that gives us the credibility of the platform really helping them out. Second, in terms of remote sensing and satellite data. So as I said, we partner with anyone and everyone which can help us serve our customers better. So for remote sensing, we do use, when the cost is a concern, then we use Sentinel data. We use data which is at accuracy of 10 by 10 meter. We then use SAR data as well, which comes along with the optical data to build my models. But in case when customers ask us of very hyper local information, then we also use, as I mentioned in my presentation, drones or data coming from Planet, which is little expensive for us to process. But then, yeah, the depends on the model which the customer is interested to engage. So we have global models for using Sentinel data, and we have specific models using the Planet data depending on regions. On the business model, yeah, we are a subscription-based business model. What we want to do is we want to work with many institutions in the agriculture sector and then charge a small portion rather than building an application completely for their business case. So the value that the institutions gets from our application is the latest technology, the best-in-class technology, and the learning from all other institutions that we have partnered with. So a training model of an institution which we develop in our platform gets also implemented in other programs, so that the larger value gets created. And in the subscription-based model, we work with, as the scale goes up, when we go to a large country level or a state level, the model really goes up, and then the prices goes down to, as I mentioned, $1 farmer. If there is a smaller scale, the values are a little higher. Our model of implementing programs on a developmental level as could be either funded by government. What we have seen in the South African region is Southern African region is most of the programs are funded by development as institution. We work with Plexus, which was funded by TechnoServe, USAID. We work with Inkajo, which was funded by Norwegian government. So what we are doing is we are looking at all of the developmental partners which are working in those regions, partnering with them and creating the larger program for implementation in those regions. So the value that we bring also is that it's a sturdy, stable platform already tried and tested across the world. So I do not want to risk the relationship with the farmer in trying something out, but to bring in something that is really transformational and going to create the value as soon as possible. So that's our differentiation. There is a cost, but the cost is quite less to the value that we create.
Great, excellent, Kunal. Thanks again for participating. The time is up for the Q&A session. We would like to congratulate you again for having made it to the top innovators. We will be sending you a certificate as a top innovator. And again, thanks for joining. Great presentation. We'll now move to the next candidate. I see Bernard, you're connected. We'll start in 2 minutes. I'm going to ask my colleague Cristina to show a video of some welcome words from the founder of Draper University, and we'll get going with Bernard in 2 minutes.
Well, I can continue with the webinar.
Yeah, you can stay connected. Just stay in mute.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tim Draper. I'd like to thank the World Bank for putting on this amazing agri-tech competition. I think agri-tech is absolutely critical for the world, particularly today. We're experiencing this global crisis in so many ways. Having local agriculture, local food sources, it becomes more and more relevant to all of us. This is an exciting time and an interesting time when the world kind of gets a reset. And during this reset, you as entrepreneurs can set the course for the future. And I'm looking forward to seeing all the great things that are coming out of this agri-tech competition. Thank you, Marem. Thank you, World Bank. I'm sorry I'm not there to see them, but I will get a chance to look them over at my leisure. I wish you all the best. Go out there, make something really extraordinary happen. Do it with gusto and enthusiasm.
Okay, very good. So now I would like to welcome Bernard Chiwome. Bernard is the founder and CEO of the NamiB project. He joins us from Namibia. Bernard, we are. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we are going to let you share yours. And once you start your presentation, we will start the clock. So over to you, Bernard. You have 5 minutes.
I hope you can see my screen. I'm going to try and share it now. Please let me know when you can see, if you can't see it. Can you see it?
No, we can see you. But
okay.
We can see the screen.
All right, I will share now. Okay, is that working now?
No, we can still see you. Oh, it's coming up. Wait.
Oh, great. Finally. All right, great.
Yeah, now we can see it. Yeah, we just put it. Yeah, perfect. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you so much, Diego. My name is Bernard Chiwome, and as Diego mentioned, I am the founder of Agri Project, and I'll be presenting the NamiB project. We are a startup working in Namibia, and we work with rural communities. We create agricultural-based projects, and we try to use some technology in our projects to make sure our projects are profitable and sustainable. So we're a small team with myself and Otwin, who's our beekeeper. Tabisi is actually a consultant on this, and he's responsible for machine learning and data management. And Michael's primarily responsible for our community engagement. So the bee project started when we realized that Namibia's bee population was dwindling. We have our own beehives that we're keeping, and they were dying. So we decided to create a population of protected beehives. And from these, we then started growing them, and we hope that as they grew larger, we'd then be able to expand into community-based beehives. Now, these community-based beehives would then be placed in communities that we train and we support, and we could then harvest a bit of honey and create some jobs while supporting the local industry, like the horticulture industry, through pollination services. We also thought this would be a great opportunity for us to maintain some, to at least meet some of our aims in terms of women and child empowerment. So what we do is with these beehives, we then create what we call a network of sentinel beehives. What we aim to do is to create data collecting beehives that are put across the nation in close proximity to these community-based beehives, and they're connected via LP1 technology, and their job will be to transmit data to us. Now, the data they transmit will help us achieve what we'd like to call the Internet of Bees. And just like any Internet of Things solution, it involves a sensor, some form of connectivity, data analytics, and eventually we want a human value decision. We want a decision that helps us affect human decisions. So the sensors, within the beehives, we plan to put sensors that will measure the weight, the temperature, the humidity, and vibrations within this. And in the same area, we then put in local weather stations, which weather parameters. The weather stations will give us a dashboard which is easily accessible to us and to local farmers, and just show us different parameters that are happening in real time. Our connectivity of choice is Sigfox. We're going to be using Sigfox network, which gives us quite a long range connectivity for our devices. And in terms of data analytics, we actually have quite a few stages of data analytics. We've got the most basic of it all, which is just the measurement of nectar flows, which helps beekeepers make decisions in terms of where to move their beehives, when to move them, when to support their bees. Then we also have local weather patterns. This is giving maybe a higher accuracy for terrestrial-based weather stations, because these stations are placed in close proximity to the bees and hopefully to the farms that the bees are going to be pollinating. We then want to take this data and create a machine learning system, which is quite complex because it has quite a few structural equation models that we need to integrate into this. But this is probably just a rough idea of what our ecological model would work, which shows the different parameters, which not only involve the bees, but also the farming activities in the close proximity to these bees. So at this point, the human value would be immediately nectar flow mapping, like I mentioned, for our beekeepers and our farmers. And eventually, I took this straight from the Understanding Risk website, in that we also want to be able to understand our local climates, and in so doing, be able to be prepared to respond adequately to a situation where there's some adverse climatic activities. So currently, we've put up a couple of sentinel hives, which are right now collecting basic data, which is honey production and bee activities. We also have partnered with local beekeepers who also are sharing data with us and giving us just a general overview of how the land is dealing with the environment. We just came out of a drought, so we've actually been taking data from our beekeepers to see how well they're doing in this drought. We hope in the future to be able to then put our sentinel hives up in the northeasterly part of the country, which is where the majority of our farming activities takes place. And thank you for listening.
Excellent. Thank you, Bernard, for the presentation. You are within your 5 minutes, so we appreciate that. We are now going to collect a few questions from the judges. We'll collect a few at a time. So if you want to write them down, we'll start with Nelly for first questions. Bernard, if you want to stop sharing your screen so that we can see you, and then if you want to use your slides to help you answer questions, you can bring them back up if you want. Nelly, over to you.
Thank you, Diego. Bernard, thank you for the presentation. It was really interesting. Idea sounds cool. The first question I have, you mentioned that you're already making pilot installations in one region in Africa. But can we see some outcomes out of there? So what data did you collect? How did you use it? How did you analyze it if you already installed the machine analytical tools and IE, which was featured in one of the slides? Second question is, when, how and when do you plan to expand local partnerships and further installations in the nearby region? I think that other judges also have a lot of questions, so I will not ask all my questions better and let them asking them.
Okay, if we have time, we can come back to you, Nelly, for more questions. Parmesh, over to you for questions.
Very, very interesting presentation, Bernard. Very interesting application of data for bees. I wanted to ask you that how do you roll this out now in terms of a product? It's like, how will you, what are the financials of this model? Now, have you bundled this with the honey transactions, or how are you going to do the things in terms of rolling it out, in terms of financial cost structure and all that? The second question has to do with how do you roll this out now in a new country? Suppose there's a bee population in SADC region. How would you go about rolling it out in a new country?
Thank you, Parmesh. Natalia, over to you.
Hi. Can you see me? Hear me?
Yeah, we can see you and we can hear you.
Perfect. So on scalability, I want to know how are you thinking as far as applying this model, which only right now is within the bee industry, but how do we apply that to other industries? What are you thinking as far as next milestones for you to look at and see? Oh, well, we want to really scale up and be able to be the one company that does this for all of Southern Africa. And then the second question I have too is, have you raised any money? Have you actually gone to angel investors or any other financial incentives that you have received to start looking at other countries as well?
Thank you, Natalia. So Bernard, you have 3 judges there asking questions. Over to you.
Okay, thanks, Diego. I hope I can answer all 3 judges. I'll start with Nelly. She asked me about the data to date. We haven't put up our sensors into the environment yet. Right now, the data we're getting is from the beehives themselves and honey production and just basically the health of the beehives within the country. So we actually hope to, because we're going to be using the LP1 technology, which we're actually rolling out. We're in the process of rolling out the network as we speak. Had it not been for our COVID situation, we had planned to roll out in April. So I think as soon as the network is up and running, we hope to be able to collect more of the finer data. At this point, the data we have is from beekeepers. In terms of expansion, I think it also follows Parmesh's question in that we do hope to expand. Now, the way the model works is that it's not focusing only on beekeepers. It's actually making use of bees to monitor crops or to help monitor crops. So there's 2 approaches where we're saying we're going to develop with our beekeepers locally and regionally. At the same time, they have to have a close relationship work with crop farmers to have a closer relationship with them. So the data is beneficial to both the beekeepers and to the local farmers. And I think with this, it then helps us in terms of our financial model. We've approached it from initially it was a corporate social responsibility thing where we tried to bring in the local industry. It is a total challenge, a startup challenge, and we got a bit of money from there. We've actually then raised money. We're in the process of our final negotiations with the mining industry So the Mayans actually have taken quite a keen interest in this as a corporate social responsibility. But in terms of it being sustainable on its own, yes, the honey is a big part of that. In fact, we've done a bit more than just look at the honey. We've with the beehives that we have, we've tested that honey. We've been working with Cardiff University to test our honey, and we're quite excited to know that we have quite a high antibacterial property of this honey. In fact, comparable with the New Zealand honey. So that's obviously a market where we can actually look at higher end products, maybe the house-based products. So we're looking at that type of extra financing from value addition to the honey itself. Also, as we are the provider of, we'll be the provider of the connectivity. So we're going to fund that from our own pockets. This is our corporate social responsibility. We'd like to dedicate free connectivity to these beehives. Natalia, you asked about milestones. Yes, I guess the first step is putting out all the Sentinel beehives, improving this concept in terms of the data itself. This takes time. With ecological modeling, it unfortunately is not a process that takes one cycle, one year to do. It has to be considered in a very long-term project. So we gather data. The first step is just gathering baseline data in terms of if we were to put a beehive in your area, what is the reaction of this beehive with respect to your yields? And this is over multiple seasons. So I think you should keep it. So our milestones have to be quite long-term and spread apart quite a bit. So the first step for us would be to put up the connectivity and to put up the beehives in the different locations. And I think it will apply to other industries. Like I mentioned, it goes to the crops. It also goes to the whole idea of biodiversity and conservation. I think it plays a big part in local conservation efforts. And the honey itself, I think, has a great utility in the idea of pharmaceuticals and organic products industry, so to speak.
Excellent, Bernard. I'm going to move to Hervé. Hervé, do you have any question?
Yeah, thank you a lot for this presentation. I understood that you have installed your beehives in some locations, but in some farms. Do you have any feedbacks from these few farms on your solution? This is the first question. And the second question, you are collecting a lot of data, weather data, if I understood well. These data are these data open data on shareable data, let's say? Thank you. This is my two questions.
Christina?
My question is about the monetization for the data and the IP behind. Do you have patents? How do you protect the IP? And if we were to bring significant number of users for the data, so is it shareable? That's Hervé's question. But if it were shareable, does it have a cost? How did you plan to monetize that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Christina. And then we have Pedro.
Thank you, Diego. I have two questions. My first question was in relation to the scalability, but I think it's been asked a lot. I have one. It's one related to the other. It's like your proposal is technology intensive. Let's assume that you'd be able to scale it out to some African countries, for example, and I can imagine the western part of Angola or the eastern part of Zambia, for example. There are large bee keepers societies in honey producing areas, but they have problems in terms of implementing the technology part that you touch so much. My question will be, do you have like an alternative plans like on how to make it work? Should there not be a very supportive community in terms of technology? And also, like, how do you address like the questions of funding? Because it seems like it looks you need a lot of investment in order to make it work. So how do you address that? And I think one relatable question I think I might have, the final one, will be how do you intend to share these results back to the, like, let's say to the farmers or these people that will be collaborating with you? Thank you.
Thanks, Pedro. And Bernard, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Pedro, Christina, and sorry, I didn't get the first gentleman's name, Hervé.
Hervé, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Hervé.
Let me try. Pedro's first. He mentions it's a tech-heavy technology. I think from the layout, the tech is not the responsible. For example, the farmer, the devices we're planning on using are very low cost. I think the advantage of the reason we went with LP-WAN technology is apart from it being a long-range communication, is also mainly because it's a very low-cost technology for us. The devices can work autonomously in the environment for a very long time without a lot of cost incurred in running it. So in terms of the communities and their buy-in, yes, it's difficult to train people on the technological part. We're not trying to train farmers to be technology experts. We're trying to train them on beekeeping. And the buy-in is not based on the data, but for them, the buy-in is based on an extra source of income and a job. So we want to keep it very low cost in that we're bringing a beehive, we're training you to keep your beehive, you're generating some income for yourself, and the running cost of this project should be quite low. Like I mentioned, the connectivity is our responsibility, and we've already factored in connectivity into our cost structure, and it is quite a manageable figure for us. In terms of the data sharing, like I mentioned, this is something we're trying to do from a corporate social responsibility. I mentioned the operating costs themselves are not significantly high. This is supposed to be a low-cost project that allows us to gain data about the environment to support other projects, which we hope, because we are an agricultural company, agri-project, we mainly support our agricultural activities. So from a beekeeping project, we hope this data supports that. From a farming project aspect, we hope that this data supports that. So I hope that sort of explains why we're not monetizing the data. Currently, the data is available to our beekeepers freely. We speak with them directly, so we give them information about the maps as to which time of the year we can put beehives in certain areas. And eventually, there's not much data processing involved. But as we process data further and becomes more complex, then we look at probably more specialized organizations, research institutions, universities that might want this data, and we're willing to give it to them freely. Eventually, you hope once this is something we can monitor crops and climate with, we would like to offer it freely to policymakers. And I think the long story is that we're not planning on monetizing this data.
Excellent. Thank you, Bernard. We have a few more minutes for additional questions and answers. Before I turn back to the judges, there's some questions on YouTube. One of them is related to the relationship with crop yields. So we know the importance that bees have to crop yields. So we wanted to know if that is something that you're measuring, or if this is in the future something an important data that you're planning to collect as well in terms of the impact of bees on yields. I don't know if any other judges have additional questions, Nelly or others, or Bernard.
Yes, please. So I have the question, given that Bernard said that you're not going to monetize the data. I didn't get the full point actually, because in this regards, you are planning to use this data for your farm project. You're planning to deliver this data for free to universities and etc. But then how do you plan to develop this project in a bigger scale? Considering that to develop it all over Africa and maybe other regions, you need financials. Being an impactful project, you can get some free grants or financials from the institutional organizations, but where is the business model behind which will ensure that you have sustainable platform for further development and integration of artificial intelligence technology, which you mentioned, and etc. Because I guess it is not you who will be developing this tech solution. You will acquire it or implement from some partnering sources. I mean, vendors. Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you, Nelly. Bernard, back to you because we are out of time. So please take a minute to respond.
Okay, I'll try and respond as quickly as possible. Nelly, from the aspect of sustainability, remember we said our projects are mainly agricultural projects with a technology twist to enhance the sustainability and profitability of our projects. So the beekeeping project is one where we've got sunflowers, for example, we're farming. So the main source of income for our company isn't the data, it's the farming activities. And then we hope to enhance these farming activities through our decision-making process, through, for example, the data we collect to help us make better decisions, to help us predict our situation much more accurately. And I think with this, we hope that's how we're going to sustain. So when you look at scaling up, I guess it's an issue of a fine balance to monitoring a pre-existing or a proposed farming project. And I guess the key issue is funding for those farming activities. I don't know if I answered that correctly. And with respect to crop yield, I mean, I do agree. We do acknowledge that. In fact, that's one of the advantages I mentioned during our presentation, is that we're hoping our bees not only provide honey but also provide a pollination service to the crops that they're in close proximity to. So we do acknowledge that. We do also realize and hope that the bees will increase yields for our projects, our agricultural projects, our cropping projects, by being close to them.
Great, excellent. So we'll have to wrap it up here. Bernard, thanks very much for participating. Congratulations for being one of the top innovators. We'll send you a certificate, and please look out Monday for the results in the website. So now we'll take a 2-minute break so that judges can stretch their legs, and we'll be back in 3 minutes with our third candidate. Thanks, Bernard.
Thanks, Diego.
Okay, welcome back. We are going to get going with our third candidate of the day. Adrian, are you connected?
I hope so.
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, perfect. So Adrian, thanks for joining. Adrian Ferrero is the co-founder and CEO of Biomakers. He's going to present today his product, B-Crop, the new layer of functional soil data. B-Crop and Biome are based in the US. So Adrian, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to let you share yours. And when you start your presentation, we'll start the clock. You have 5 minutes.
All right. I should start straight, right? Share the screen.
Yes, please.
And you confirm when you see the screen? Probably, yeah, now, right?
It's coming. Yeah, it's there, so.
Okay. Okay, so now here. All right, I'm ready. Just a moment, second. I'm ready to go. Should I just
go ahead. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So good evening. My name is Adrian Ferrero. I'm co-founder and CEO of Biomakers. And I would like to start saying that we see what others don't see in the soil. Soil is the most valuable asset to support life on Earth. But because of modern agriculture practices, we have lost 1/3 of the arable soil in the last 40 years. And this problem is accelerated, especially in those areas like Africa where we still have a very fertile soil. The reality is that we don't know how to maintain healthy soil. Every year, we keep increasing the level of fertilization into the soil because we are losing soil fertility. And Africa, as you can see in this graph in the bottom, is still consuming the smallest amount of fertilizers. But still, there is a positive trend. So this is important and this is relevant. At Biomakers, we provide data-driven insights on how to make the soil healthy. We provide a new layer of data related to soil functionality. In other words, we measure the life, we measure the bioactivity of the soil and translate it into data. Let me explain how it works with B-Crop. So first, we collect a soil sample, a very small amount of soil sample. Soil is alive. It contains millions of microbes that we can use as a biomarker. First, we examine this complex community of microbes of bacteria and fungal species using DNA sequencing. And this approach is today possible because the cost of DNA sequencing has dropped dramatically in the last few years. We add this layer of data into our system that already contains over 4 million microbial references. But the real value relates to our artificial intelligence system that is able to provide a functional interpretation of this community of microbes. But of course, the results have to be meaningful and easy to understand by any grower, any farmer worldwide to make action. So we have developed very nice digital and visual tools to understand and to process the results. Our PDF report, the one you can see on the right, compiles all the information, all the life of the soil in 3 dimensions. First one, the biodiversity, how active the soil is. Second one, healthiness. What is the risk of having diseases? Third one, fertilization. Fertility, nutrient pathways, how to make fertilization efficient. So everything is about making efficient and smart agriculture decisions when it comes to practices. And this layer of data, we have made it available to any system. So we can connect. We have already developed the API to connect and share the data globally to any third-party platforms. So far, we have been recognized both in US and Europe, and our customers have given us an amazing, incredible feedback that we can help them to drive sustainability and value to their farms. We are here today to ask the World Bank to endorse our Fields Forever initiative because we want to open the technology to everyone, especially those areas where this technology has not arrived yet, as Africa. So we want to make it available for farmers, agronomists, and researchers. and they can get value out of the use of this technology. So we are giving away 20,000 samples because we want to build the first biomap of soil functionality, which is going to help to really care about the soil and maintain the life of the soil. This is our second startup. So with Biomakers, we have attracted funding from the biotech giant Illumina and other investors. And well, we are 26 people. We are early stage startup, and that's the reason because we're now at that moment where we can open this technology. 26 people, 40% of us are PhD level from different disciplines, from genetics, microbiology, software engineer, and agronomy, because we have made an amazing technology, everything in-house, and now making it available to everyone. I'm going to be very short. I grew up in vineyards in Spain, and I feel attached to the farmland and believe in the value of data to drive sustainability and to achieve sustainable intensive agriculture. My final message: everything starts in the soil, from the grass the cows eat to the potatoes you cook. So it's time to start taking care for it, especially in those areas where we have the risk of losing that life, that power. Better soil, better food, better life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adrian, and great job. Stuck to 5 minutes. Great presentation. So we're going to open now for questions, Adrian. So we ask you if you want to take notes because you'll get a few questions at a time, and you can bring back your slides if you want to when you're answering. Okay, Parmesh, over to you.
Thank you, Diego, and a great presentation. Again, I think your vision of working on soil is very, very laudable and I think very, very timely at this time. I wanted to ask you that if you had to roll out into the Southern Africa region, how would you roll out? Have you done any past assessment of what your potential partners in that region would be? And how would you approach it? And which are the kinds of partners you are looking for in the region? The second question is about how I really admire you opening up this data to everyone. So, but how do you sustain this? Do you look at this as a quasi private good or a public good? You know, how do you look at the financing of this going forward? Thank you.
Thanks, Parmesh. Natalia.
Hey, so exciting. Plug and play, actually. That's where I have my office. It's Sunnyvale. So a couple questions on the scalability part of things. It has to be, you know, I just want to make sure that if you look at the southern part of Africa, that what experience have you had exactly right there? Are there any models that or pilots or any other projects you've done that can be replicated? More importantly, because we want to look at this to scale, right? We want to make sure that this actually is very, very scalable. And then second thing is how much have you raised? How, is it mostly from angel investors, or has it been from getting grants, or are there, impact investors and so on?
Okay, Adrian, you have 4 questions there from Parmesh and Natalia. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Should I start answering the questions? How to enter? Let me start with Parmesh. How we plan to enter into African market? Let me say, up to date, we just have some samples from Morocco, so no experience at all. We have some contacts, especially with researchers, but the idea is to find first farmers associations or agronomists that are delivering services or helping others, and especially other companies that are into the probably soil testing market. That's how we are approaching this penetration in other areas in the world. So that's the main goal. And how we plan to sustain the business model? This is a very interesting question. So we are making right now money out of making the tests in countries. Well, actually, we have around 15 countries, clients in 15 clients. We have 300 clients. We have been 1.5 years commercializing this technology. So we already have some revenues. And the idea is to, well, build this global, or having this global approach, being able to incentivize those areas where this technology is not as affordable yet, because it's a matter of time that is going to become more and more affordable. So how we are making money and sustaining the whole structure is by making business in US and Europe mainly, and also Latin America. Those are our main markets right now. And again, we are an early startup. We started to commercialize 1.5 years ago, so we're still. Well, but there are not many players in this field, so, and especially with this fully developed technology. And the idea is to, well, develop first to enter into the market with this non-profit initiative, start seeing if the data generates the value that is generating in other areas, and if it does, then think about the partnerships to keep going. Okay. Related to Natalia's question, scalability, previous experiences, we haven't worked in Africa directly, but we have worked in over 40 different crops doing pilots, and we really believe that the soil, we are receiving soil from all around the world, but Africa and Asia, we just have some references. And what we see is that when you have this functional approach, it doesn't matter there which is the origin of the soil, because we're building a global reference for each one of the crops. So let me just give you an example. If you think about Brazilian rainforest versus Australian rainforest, from the taxonomic point of view, is completely different. But from the functional point of view, the bioactivities happening in those ecosystems are pretty much the same. But this is the same with soil. If we are growing corn, we are growing the same crops, coffee, cacao, than in Latin America, banana, anything, it's pretty much the same. And the second question from Natalia was how much we have raised. We started in 2015. We have been for 3.5 years developing the technology, and then we started to commercialize, validation in between. We have made a seed round of 2.2 million. Last year we did a Series A for 4 million. And we have received, those are private investors, VC, and corporate, traditional VCs, independents, and not corporate. And last year, we also received the backup from the European Commission, and this is the reason because we are also pushing Fields Forever, 2 million from the European Commission as a grant to expand the technology all across the world, especially having an impact in Europe.
Great, thanks, Adrian. I'm going to go over to Hervé. Hervé, questions?
Yes, so first of all, I have to admit that I have some difficulties to see your presentation, but okay, I heard about your solution. It's not more a question, but a comment. I think that your solution you are bringing now is very linked with SDG, Sustainable Development Goal, and more particularly to the indicators we have to monitor with the SDG number 15 of the target number 3 of this SDG. And I know that there are some, let's say, some ongoing initiatives to build references on this target. Do you have contacts with the GEF for the Global Environmental Facility on the ongoing program with FAO that are on this specific target? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hervé. Christina?
Thanks, first of all, for a very good presentation, Adrian. I have 2 questions that are related, or maybe it's only one. It's more linking with some other initiatives which could be interesting in the agriculture modeling space. So first of all, if you are using the results you have so far to do some, or if they could be used to do some yield predictions, because the quality of the soil could help for that. So if you are developing or thinking about developing models in that direction. And second of all, you mentioned pests, and that's an area where we are lacking a lot of models and good results. So I'm wondering if you have investigated this idea of partnering with companies or institutions that are looking at pests and the risk there. And how would you approach that in the future if that's an expansion you are thinking about? Thank you.
Okay, Adrian, you have 3 questions there, 1 from Hervé and 2 from Christine.
Perfect. So I'm going to start with the first one. You are completely right. This is a new tool to measure what is happening in the soil based on farming practices. I will go beyond. We are having, today we are working with 36 input manufacturers on exploring or helping them to understand what is the impact, the specific impact of their products into the soil. I'm talking about not just biological products, biostimulants, biofertilizers, but also traditional products that are already available in the market. So here we have a technology that is able to make these measurements. We are not working with the institutions that you mentioned, while we are now, thanks to Big Fields Forever, building some partnerships all around the world, but especially in Africa. Let me just mention the Alliance of Biodiversity that are having some projects in, sorry, because that was a call that I have yesterday in Zimbabwe and in Ghana. And we also have with other non-profit researching institutions to help them to fulfill or to finish or contribute to their research in Africa. So we are happy to have, beyond this conversation, connection to any group, because we are happy and we are giving this, we are here today to ask the support from the World Bank to push this technology beyond and have this data available. Let me go through Christina's question. So can we build yield prediction? I love that question because yes, of course. Let me say, we're starting to understand the mechanism of the soil microbiome. Okay, that's like the first. But that said, as we're growing more data, our system is learning. And we've seen, for instance, in potato crop, we have been able to predict changes, yield differences, and the reason or how to restore the productivity of that and a specific field to become high yield field. So this comes from 2 to 40% variability on the prediction. So it can have a huge impact. So yeah, building predictions and being able to make specific recommendation projects is in our pipeline. We're working on that. And as we have more and more data into our system, it's going to be easier. And if we connect this to other platforms, other systems, other data sources, this is going to speed up. It's going to work better. And you mentioned about pests. Well, if the pest is causing a disease that it has a microbial reason, like area fungal, that's something we can track. So what we are not tracking directly, it's like species moving around that can damage the crop by themselves. So diseases, for sure.
Thanks, Adrian. I would like to ask Pedro, see if he has any questions.
Thank you, Diego. I think I got 2 questions. Now, just picking back on what Christina said about modeling. I wanted to know, how about if you come up to build your model, will you be able to share your model for different research institutions to actually combine your results in order to build, let's say, a different model with the results? I think what I'm getting at here is who owns the intellectual properties of what you're developing. I hear you saying about sharing the data and all of that, but it seems to me like it's just an initial setup into the market. But you probably will be, once your product is in the market, you'll be owning that. So who owns the intellectual property on your model and the results that you'll be sharing? Okay, so if one institution wants to use your model, how can they do that? Okay, so that's what I have.
Thanks, Pedro. Nelly?
Yeah, thank you. So I have a few questions. First, you mentioned that right now your technology is used to analyze the current state of the soil and also to give recommendations on how to improve it. Did you consider also the use case when you will be able to analyze data and give some forecasts, for example, for financial organizations or whatever, to help them in the decision making? To forecast the state of the soil for the next few years and what will happen with the crops if nothing will be changed. Second question, you mentioned that it is your second startup. What has happened with the first one? Was it successful or it failed? What experience do you have? Next, you mentioned that you have very warm feedback from your current customers, from farmers who write you that they got amazing results. But can you give some numbers on these results? For example, your technology helped them to improve the crop rate or health like 25% or whatever. So can you share some more measurable numbers? Thank you.
Okay, Adrian, you have quite a few questions, and after that, after your responses, we'll close. Thanks.
Okay, those are the final questions, right? So 3-4 minutes to answer the four questions. Perfect. So let me start with Pedro. You asked about the IP. So our users, so the owner of the land, of the soil that we receive, is the owner of the data that we generate. Okay. Of course, we're a startup. The algorithms that we have developed to make this functional interpretation is IP. What we are doing with research institutions, we are receiving their data and we are processing for free, because that's part of the thing. When I say opening the data, I mean because confidentiality is also very important for us, and data privacy and so on. So we are not going to open the data. We are giving access to the technology. That's what we say when opening the technology, opening the data. But if we work with a non-profit institution, researchers, they are going to open the data. They are going to share the data. That's and we love that, because what we don't want is to have thousands of different standards on soil functionality, because otherwise nobody can compare. So we need to harmonize this information and shape it in a way that makes sense, and we can aggregate, anonymize, and take reports. And this goes to the first question of Nelly, and give reports to people making decisions. No, because if, for instance, we see that there is a trend in South Africa related to Southern Africa related to a certain disease risk, and it's very high and it's very linear, so then the regulators knows what they need to do. We're right now helping some institutions to assess what is the living status of the soil. This is connect to what the value that the soil has at a certain point. But we haven't done much there. We have worked a lot with farmers. First startup, it was on the health sector, the first genetic diagnostic center for hereditary diseases for humans, especially cancer. We sold it because we saw that the growth of the market was not going to be very quick, very high. And then we saw the opportunity of taking the technology into agriculture. So yeah, we sold that company after 4 years, half operating. And the ROI, some cases about how our farmers, let me think. Well, mainly everything that we have got is to optimize the farming practices, either reduce the products that they are using or changing the products to make the fertilization program or the crop protection program more efficient. We're talking about that we can put down, in some cases, we have cut down around 15% of the cost. In other cases, we have increased it, but in parallel, we have seen an return from the yield because the products were more suitable. If I remember properly, the case that we have in sugarcane in 12%. So well, we have success cases. Happy to share all of them if needed. At least some of them are available online.
Okay, great. Thank you, Adrian, and thanks for a great presentation, for participating. Congratulations for having made it to the last round, and we will be sending you your certificate as top innovator in this challenge. Please look out Monday for the results. Now we will take a 5-minute break. We'll go to the next candidate, the fourth one. Watson is already connected, so we'll get ready to start in 5 minutes. Judges, from now on, Hillary, my colleague, is going to be moderating, so watch out for her instructions. Adrian, thanks very much, and good luck.
Sure, thank you. Good day.
develop real-time early warning systems for pests, crop failures, crop diseases, and many more. Farmers can buy inputs, source markets, pool produce to supply larger customers on the platform. We have API platform features that allow suppliers, buyers, NGOs, banks, insurance, transporters, development finance institutions, governments to have one farmer-centric view of the farmer. We partner with companies that share our values in the IoT, drones, and satellite space so they can confirm what the farmer is doing on the ground in a bid to confirm and improve the reliability of the farmer's data and ultimately trust. These are the benefits to the farmer as well. Because we utilize farmer records, we are able to measure their productivity, as such, influence agricultural policy, agricultural science, technology policy in their favor. Through farmer discovery or making smallholder farmers known to the market, we increase their market access and market penetration. Digitized records and monitoring the activities of the farmer with respect to the crop helps us provide a novel ongoing risk management tool on the platform for financial service providers and farm development agencies, thereby making it cost-effective for those value chain actors to provide producer loans to ensure financial inclusion. In the era of COVID-19, ISASFarm provides a useful starting point for monitoring government projects and programs geared towards improving food security in the smallholder sector. Our platform is a cost-effective technology that uses machine learning to assist the smallholder farmers. We aim to follow our implementation model in Eswatini to scale to other SADC countries. The model involved 1, obtaining a local partner and establishing a local ISASFarm branch. Currently, we've got 4 local partners in Zambia, Zimbabwe, Eswatini, and South Africa, and 2 branches are actually operational. Secondly, partnering with a mobile operator, as our USSD codes can only be deployed on a mobile operator network. Thirdly, partner with an in-country farmer development agency. Fourth, we partner with markets. Fifth, partner with multilateral development organizations focusing on agriculture. Sixth, partner with financial institutions, banks, and insurance companies. And lastly, onboard other essential value chain actors such as input suppliers, transporters, soil testing labs, etc. The farmer does not have to pay to use the platform because the mobile operator provides the service for free to the farmer because of the opportunity to capture mobile transactions from the unbanked. 80% of the smallholder farmers still receive their income in cash. We have a multi-tiered business model. We charge customers for using our data. As the data matures, it becomes more valuable to the customer, creating repeat business for ISASFarm. We aim in SADC to digitalize 20 million farmers, and by 2025, once smallholder farmers are producing according to proven guidelines, their produce can then be exported, which can lead to more inter-African trade in accordance with the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh.
Thank you. Yes.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that great presentation and for staying within your 5 minutes. Now we're going to turn to the judges for 15 minutes of questions. We're going to take multiple questions at a time, so be sure to write them down. And I see you've already stopped sharing your screen, but you can pull up any slides if you need to answer them. So we're going to turn first to Natalia for questions.
Great presentation. So I have a couple of questions. Your competitive landscape. So who are your folks who are actually, doing the same thing? Have you looked at different markets? And also, have you raised any funding from angel investors, or have you gotten other grants that can actually be able to help you scale and be able to do what you want to go ahead and achieve globally?
Thank you, Natalia. Hervé?
Thank you. I confirm it was a great presentation. You shared a little bit with us some cost of your solution, but I saw on your presentation, you already outlined it, you are using drones on satellites, I think for validation or verification purposes. Is it not an additional cost for the overall process of the tool? It was my only one question.
Thank you, Hervé.
Dos más.
Over to you, Watson.
I think Tula, you can start. Can I handle this?
Some of the questions that have been asked. I think I just want to state that unlike most app-based inventions, ISSFAM uses the farmer to upload the data. This is cost-effective, which allows scalability of the technology, but it also means that extension officers can now focus on data analysis or on high-value job instead of just capturing data and so on and so forth. It also makes it easier for the farmer to learn in the process, because the residual, as he's inputting the data, is understanding what he needs to do on the farm, on the ground, on a daily basis. And we think that the residual is therefore knowledge. So coming back to the question, the first question had to do with the competitive landscape. In as far as we're concerned, and as Watson stated, we do not believe that there's actually a company that is actually doing what we're trying to do. There are companies that are doing bits and pieces of what ISSFAM is trying to do, but on the main, there's no one company that we've found in Southern Africa that's actually doing what we're doing. There's not one company that we've found in Africa that's actually trying to do what we're doing. Why? Because we're doing farmer-centric data. We're going straight to farmers on the ground and actually getting them to know exactly how to upload the data. In terms of different markets, so I don't know whether this question speaks to markets in terms of where does the produce go, or in terms of the people that we want as our clients. But in terms of markets, in terms of produce, so we onboard every market in every country. So if you follow the model that we're using in the Kingdom of Eswatini, and as what's been presented and explained, we start by onboarding farmers. We go on to onboard market intermediaries, market aggregators, and so on and so forth. So we try that in a country, we can cover every other market, including aggregators who then aggregate for export purposes. There was also the issue of cost effectiveness of drones. And so maybe Watson, you want to take that question?
Yes, the cost of the drone. So yes, so we believe that the drone companies that are actually partnering with us will be focusing to actually improve the data quality that we're actually getting from the farmer. And so we will basically have a partnership where we actually devise our own pricing models with ourselves, but the farmer himself does not actually pay for anything. It's all about the market that needs that data, right? So it's like a Bloomberg terminal. So your financial institutions need it because they need to monitor basically the whole production process from beginning to the end. So by having, not only do we have the input management part of it, or the inputs that are happening on the farm, we then can now use the drones to actually check what's happening to confirm that input. So it improves the data quality. So together we can actually have our own relationship and to actually build the model. So we don't charge the farmers for that. And then the cost of the solution. So I think we saw all the slides that were there. There were always pictures of farmers that we have actually gone to visit. And when they raised up their hand, what device they had a feature phone. So they already have that device. And we are just saying that we found a way to actually communicate through that device and also allow mobile operators to operate zero rated, so they don't have to pay for that solution at all. And by doing that, we're actually allowing the scalability of this thing to actually grow, because the mobile operator wants to be part of this unbanked community. And I think that's talks to the cost of the solution. And then the funding element. So currently we've been funded by a company called Citrin Limited. They're based in Zambia, and they have been funding us since last year. And we've managed to actually build the platform and actually start testing it out in the market. And so we got a bit of funding there. But of course, because we've got 4 different local partners in 4 different regions, SADC, we believe that if we get more funding, we'll be able to penetrate the market more. Because what's the cost? The cost is basically the cost of onboarding. The cost of onboarding will be traveling, accommodation, to actually go to those regions, actually put it on. But once we get onto the ground, the farmer doesn't have to pay for anything, which makes it a bit more scalable for the market. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to go to Christina for questions.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I still have a question concerning the scalability on different markets as in different countries. You said you can deploy the solution very quickly on different markets in SADC. So how would you, can you explain a bit more, how would you go about that? Which country would you onboard next if you have looked into that? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Over to you, Pedro.
Thank you. I have kind of like two related questions. One of them, the first one is like, you said that even though you use the drones to confirm the data that the farmers themselves upload in order to ensure quality, but the farmers, they still participate. So I would like to know who owns the data that is uploaded into your system. And the second question I have is the data shareable? Because you using the farmers, even though you're using the second parties to confirm, still like you got the data from the farmers. So is your data shareable or not? Thank you.
Thank you, Pedro. Back to you, Watson.
Okay, the question on scalability in terms of the market. So currently, as we said, we're in Eswatini, currently looking to onboard over 10,000 farmers. We're also looking into partnering with a farming development agency in South Africa. But already we have already found 2 local partners in Zimbabwe and Zambia. So that's our other growth sectors that we're looking into. We're actually on the verge of actually registering the companies in those regions. So that's what our scalability model looks like. And just to talk back to those steps, it's first you get a local partner first, then you get a mobile operator second, then you get an in-country farming agency third, then you start onboarding the market, like the Pick and Pays, the Tiger Brands of the world. Then you start talking to multi-development agencies in the country, like your World Food Program. You then go to your banks, because your banks want a plug and play. They don't want to do the development part of it. So by you already being part of those development agencies and open the farmers, you are now giving the chance to actually plug and play. Then the last one is we partner with other essential actors. So your drones are your other essential actors. We don't believe that, because currently the market, how it's structured is that there's a lot of extension workers that are already on the ground, but they're doing too much work in terms of data capturing. So they don't have they don't have capacity to do all the farmers in 1 month. So by allowing the farmer to upload himself, you're now giving that extension officer the opportunity now to look at his data and now to say, okay, fine, where are the issues? And the farmer himself, he needs to now know what he is doing on the farm. And the second question was on data ownership. So in our model, the farmer owns the data from day one. All we are doing is that the farmer opts in to say, guys, I would like to share my data when he registers. And when he opts in, he then gets access to everyone else. So it's always the farmer's data. Hence why we call it farmer-centric data. So he owns the data, and we share it with his content to a particular stakeholder that he wants to partner with. So an example would be if there's a market and they want to buy bananas, the market can actually go on our platform and actually issue out an e-contract, and it will come to the farmer as an SMS, and the farmer can now actually opt in to provide that that produce. So it's always his data, and that's how we connect the two markets. And the last one is data shareability, because now all the data, it's his, and it's all on this data lake. It's very shareable as long as he's agreed to share it. But at the same time, we've created the highways to actually access these value chain players. So the highway to go to the banks, the highway to go to buyers, the highway to go to suppliers, the highway to go to transporters, it's all these highways. When you talk about the drones they are confirmers, but they're not essential when we want to actually find out how does the farmer farm. Because the issue in farming is not that the farmer it's the farmer. He's the one that lacks the knowledge how to farm. If you give a farmer a drone and you say go farm, he won't be able to farm because you still lack that knowledge of farming. So by us asking him all these questions and to say, hey, what germination rates? Are there any pests? He can then now start telling us what's happening in there, and then we can infer from that knowledge to actually help the farmer.
Thank you, Watson. Now we're going to go to Nelly for questions.
Yeah, thank you. Speaking about scalability, sorry, that again, the question is about that. Actually, you're developing a kind of marketplace, and for marketplace, it is essentially important to gain the critical mass of both stakeholders. I didn't get, I heard that you say it is very cheap to reach the farmers. Right now, as far as I understood, you are reaching them actually physically through local partners, but it sounds like a limited capacity. How are you going to reach those numbers, which you drafted like until 2025, when you have around 200 million of farmers connected? Second question, could you elaborate a little bit more about your team? Because we have seen your teammate, one of them, I guess, but I didn't notice in your presentation some information about the team expertise and how many people at least you have there. Yeah, for the moment, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nelly. And over to you, Parmesh.
Thank you very much. So I think interesting presentation. I wanted to understand the cost structure. What is the cost you're incurring now? And when you go to scale, what the cost is going to look like? What is the composition? What are the main money you're spending right now on? And what do you see when it goes to scale, what that composition would be? And the revenue streams, the way you look at it now. Where is the revenue coming from? What are the cost components? Give it a little bit more granularity. Thank you.
Thank you, Parmesh. Back to you, Watson.
Tula, can you take this one?
So I'm going to start with maybe just to share a little bit on the scalability question. So how are we going to ensure that we actually reach the 20 million farmers that we intend to reach in SADC by 2025? So if you look at the model that we are following in the Kingdom of Eswatini, which happens to be the country that I'm based in, what we do is the first thing, as Watson explained, is to find a farmer development agency. The farmer development agency, or even the aggregators themselves, they have a critical, sort of mass, the number of farmers that you're looking for to actually capture their data, to capture their activity, but also to then, handhold them through the farming process. So what we try to do is not to duplicate what is already being done on the ground, but it's just to ensure that what is being done on the ground is being done effectively and efficiently. And that's where we then try to say that how do we quickly, or how do we quicken the commercialization of smallholder farmers in Africa? How do we make government projects begin to work? We measure what these farmers are doing by collecting this data. So if we go to each and every development program in each and every country, we are able to reach as many farmers as possible because we're partnering with people who are already, or entities that are already on the ground. I think I will also then take the question on the team. I am the co-founder as well at Business Farm. I'm also the chairman. I hold a PhD in economics. I've worked at the Agricultural Research Council, where I got a very good understanding of how agricultural science and technology policy sort of works. I've also gotten an opportunity to work on the front lines of implementing policy, but also doing policy research. I'm also an adjunct assistant professor at the University of Arkansas. And then there's also Watson, who he has a BA degree in economics. He also enrolled for an MBA at Gordon Institute of Business Sciences in South Africa. He's worked at FNP, where he at a bank where he actually understood some of the very interesting things around financing of smallholder farmers and some of the interesting opportunities that are out there, which we're trying to sort of engage in. He's also got a vast experience in terms of understanding logistics. We also have two other people who are working for the company who are also helping us in terms of getting to the farmers. This is a technology company, so we don't need as many people to actually get things done. That's why it's important to understand that we are using the farmer to capture the data because we want to build his and her capability in terms of understanding, the entire agricultural process. Watson, is there any other thing that you want to add?
Yes, unmute me. Yes, I want to add on the cost structure and the revenue. So the cost structure currently is literally web development and the cost of onboarding. So web development, or system development and machine learning development, basically. We've outsourced that to some very good techies, and they're building our solution for that. So we are spending a lot of money on getting our tech even more advanced than it is currently. And then after that's done, then you focus on actually going to the farmers and onboarding them onto the system. So that's your cost of travel, accommodation, etc. And then the last one is revenue. So each different stakeholder that plugs into our platform has got a revenue structure. So if you look at apart from the banks, if you look at your markets, they're able to do e-contracts to seal deals with farmers. So basically, we are digitalizing contract farming as well. So we can do that on the platform. Apart from that, we also be able to actually provide transporters to come on the platform and offer their transport services to farmers. And the good thing about this is that Uber right now does it for the urban areas, but no one has actually done it for the rural areas. How do you connect someone with no internet to a vehicle? And by using this USSD, we're actually enabling mobility in a very underserved area. So we think that's a very good innovation around that. And also, we've also innovated in terms of being able to classify where the farmer is, where there is no infrastructure in terms of roads and signs. We've got that one there. And then also when you go to suppliers want more, want more customers. So by giving them all these farmers are also able to to get the inputs which they need. But because there are so many farmers on the platform, we're going to enable economies of scale to allow them to actually get discounts for what they're buying. So, and then you look at an NGO or a multilateral organization like yourself as the World Bank, you guys want to understand your ROI, the money that you put into the farming sector, does it come out, and who is actually benefiting from it? So we have the dashboard that I can actually show you to see how that looks like. So someone like the World Food Program would sign up onto the platform per person, and now they'll be able to see all the farmers that are on the platform. This is an example of what we did in Swaziland, where you can actually see farmers per province, farmers per community, and also farmers per city. But most importantly, we've got this thing called ISIS points. So ISIS points works like your discovery points or your credit score, whereby for every activity you do and you input it into the platform, we give you a point for that. So the whole production process, from pre-cultivation, plowing and planting, crop growth, harvesting to post-harvesting, there are points across there. So there are probably 40, like in our system right now, there's 488 points in total. So the higher the points that you have, it means the more steps that you have actually followed to actually get to your final destination. So we have got that as well. And then we also can tell you how many farmers are there in total, male or female. And this is what someone like a World Bank or someone like a farmer development agency will pay for. How the USSD string works is basically something like this, whereby you type in right now in Swaziland *700# and a pin, then it unlocks you to all these different services where you can really start ordering on the platform.
Watson, sorry to interrupt, but this is all the time that we have for Q&A, unfortunately. We'd like to congratulate you again on making it to the final round and for being a top innovator. You'll be receiving a certificate from us for top innovator, and you'll find out the results on Monday. Thank you.
No, thank you very much.
Okay, and now we're going to take a 4-minute break before we have the next participant.
To reduce food security in the region is, number one, we need a quicker response from the government. There is a lot of bureaucracy to government responding to some of those disasters. So if we can have a better coordination among the government departments, from the National Disaster Management Center and the National Treasury, the Department of Agriculture, we have a well-coordinated you know, ministry and in the policy space, we can do a lot of things much better. We also need to be able to train our extension officers so that they can translate research into practice. And if this is done, that means the research that are coming from the university, from the consortium, can easily be translated into practice. And again, we also need to train the farmers through the extension officer on climate smart agriculture techniques. These are ways for us to improve the level of food. The important thing is that there is a lot of potential in Southern Africa, and if we can manage and coordinate properly, be able to utilize the full potential in Southern Africa to reduce poverty, able to reduce hunger and nutrition. Thank you.
My team, we are interested in supporting Southern Africa. There's many opportunities there, both from the climate side, from the policy side, and also the practice side. We really look at it at the nexus of those three elements to get a better understanding of what can be explored to better understand the climate dynamics that impact low average rainfall, extreme rainfall events, and get a better idea of what needs to be done in order to better capture the voices of the most vulnerable populations that aren't usually included in the development of tools and other interfaces that the governments could use to make decisions based on resources for food insecurity. When we're talking about opportunities, what can be done? Think of it in a few different ways. However, the overarching theme is this idea of the difference between availability and use of data. There's a lot of data available. There's a lot of tools out there. There's a lot of interfaces there. But why are some used more than others? What are the governance structures that are currently in place? What are the systems that are currently in place? What is the science that is getting integrated into this decision-making process now? What are the questions being asked? So these are the elements that we're trying to explore, trying to identify before we move forward with saying, well,
Okay, so now I'd like to welcome our next candidate, Dr. Sat Kumar Tomer, who is the CEO of Satyuk Analytics in India. Sat, are you connected? Sat, are you there? Sat, I see you are connected. Can you hear us?
This is Pramod. I think he'll be joining just 1 minute. I'm texting him.
Okay, great.
Yes, he has joined.
Okay, great. I'm going to stop sharing my slides so that you can share your presentation, and then whenever you're ready, we'll put 5 minutes on the clock for your pitch.
Yeah.
Are you able to share your slides? Oh, there it goes.
Sat Kumar? Hello?
Hello? Okay, we can see your slides, so whenever you're ready, you can start. Pramod, are you there?
Yeah, yes, I'm there.
Okay, are you ready to start the presentation?
Satkumar is able to present, I think.
Okay.
He's going to present.
Hello, Sat, can you hear us?
Yes, Satkumar. सर आपका आवाज कुछ नहीं आ रही है सर You are not able to see your screen also. तो एक काम करता हूँ मैं स्लाइड शुरू करता हूँ आपको
Sat, we can see your screen. Can you hear us?
Sat just messaged me that he can hear, but
Sat, we aren't able to hear you. Pramod, do you think you could give the presentation?
Sat will give the presentation.
Sat, could you please try dialing in with your phone number to connect the audio?
I'll be presenting.
Okay, great. Thank you. Whenever you're ready, you can start.
You can start now. Are you able to see my screen?
No. Oh, it's loading now.
Okay.
we can see it now.
Yeah. Hi everyone. This is Pramod Khombare. We are a startup up to 2.5 years old. My name is Satyut Analytics, and we work in domains like cycle remote sensing and physical algorithms and machine learning. So we have a team of 20 people. Our CEO Satkumar Tomar, who has done his PhD from IISc Bangalore, and he has done postdoctorate from SPF France. And MD is Juktigal, and we have CTO called Subhash Agina, who is handling technical issues, and I'm Pramod, who is handling business development now. And we have a stronger team who has the expertise in different careers, and we come from different backgrounds. So we all are from Indian premier institute like IISc and IITs and NITs. So we have a business model like ours is a B2B and B2G company, and we have a subscription-based model. And our products like can be used for irrigation companies, food processing, farmers, FPOs, cooperatives, and agriculture input companies, government departments like agriculture, water resources, and different crop insurance banks and agri equipment companies. We can provide real-time global information combining multiple satellites. So we're combining multiple satellites just because some few satellites have a very low spatial resolution and few have a very high resolutions. And few have very low temporal resolution, few have very high temporal resolution. So we are combining the strengths of multiple satellites to build a product like Western indices, which can give the indication of crop health, and soil moisture, which can give what is the soil moisture content, what is the level of soil moisture content in the soil, and also evaporation transpiration give the information like how much water has been evaporated and transpirated, and it can give what is the requirement of a crop. So farmers or any person, stakeholder can take the decisions based upon these kind of products. And also we provide rainfall information, and that is around every 3 hours, and we can give information temperature and crop yield, surface water, and flood estimations. We can provide solutions at different scales. We can provide at a state country level, state level, or a farm level. So this is one of the product like soil moisture. So it can be used for government or startup or large corporates. So we have been providing these kind of services to so many people. So this kind of information gives the indication of what is soil moisture in that area. So it can be used for the people. So one such a kind of project we have done for Karnataka state, which they wanted to do cloud seeding, because in last year there was a very heavy heavy rainfall in this west part of Karnataka, and with this very less rainfall in north, east, and southeast. So we used to provide daily soil moisture to the Karnataka government. So they used to make decisions which part is having less soil moisture. So they used to do cloud seeding and all. And one more product like this soil moisture at a farm scale. So it's varies from 0 to 1. 0 means soil is very dry, and 1 is soil is very wet as possible. In this map or graph, you can see that so every pixel is 20 meter by 20 meter resolutions, and this yellow or red color shows that this part of farm is having very less soil moisture, and this green color shows that this part is having good soil moisture. If a person who is having less resources, he can irrigate only in this part of area where is less soil moisture is there, and he can monitor the crop, the farm, by sitting at his location, his home. So we have done this kind of projects in different parts of other locations. We have done soil moisture crop health monitoring in Malaysia and Norway, Egypt, and we have done crop mapping in coconut crop mapping in Sri Lanka, and also we have done in Myanmar and Andaman Nicobar Islands, and we have done in South India also. And also we provide soil moisture and a crop health monitoring using NDVI and all to a farm scale in Vietnam. And also we are doing it a project like CEH, Center of Ecology and Hydrology of UK. So we are providing soil moisture information on daily basis to the UK. So these kind of information we can using satellite remote sensing technology, we can process the information at any locations of the earth. And also we have downloaded information of Indian level. So it can in India we can provide around nearly 2 weeks, but in global level you can provide 2 to 3 weeks. And one of other products using soil moisture, we can say that it is a prevented sowing. If soil moisture is there, farmer is not sowing because of some other financial issues, so that is called prevented sowing. If soil moisture is not there, farmer is not sown because of drought or because of not having water, he is not sown. So this kind of information will be useful for the banks who have taken insurance premium from the farmers and all. And one more is product like crop yield loss due to flood. So these kind of projects we have done in Madhya Pradesh, state of India. So there was a heavy flood in last year in 2019. So we estimated crop yield before the flood of historical data sets we have taken, and we estimated what was the yield of crops of soybean, and also we have estimated what is the affected area.
Sorry, Pramod, you're muted because your 5 minutes is up. But thank you for that presentation, and now we're going to turn to Q&A from the judges for the next 15 minutes. There's going to be multiple questions, so you can write them down and then stop sharing your screen so that we can see you, but you can use your slides to answer questions. Pramod, are you there? So we're going to go to Q&A now for the judges.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to start with Hervé. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for this beautiful presentation. Yes, indeed, I have two questions. You presented a lot of products related to the soil moisture in order to advise farmers, to advise governments, and so on. I would like first, from a technological point of view, know a little bit more what are the satellites on the data on the models behind. First question. And the second question is, do you have any experiences in SADC regions, and if any? Because I saw briefly your last slide. If you have one, who are your customers? Thank you.
Thank you, Hervé. Now we're going to go to Christina for questions.
Thank you. I have two questions actually. We saw some examples of projects you've been working on, but have you deployed anything in the South African region? And do you have the same resolution that you showed us for India, for example, in all the locations that you've worked in? And secondly, what data is behind the projections you are doing? What exactly? How are you getting the data? Are you partnering locally? Where is the data coming?
Thank you, Christina. We're going to go back to you now, Pramod, to answer those questions.
Hi. First, I'll come to respond questions. First, satellite data. We are using open source satellite data sets like SMOS, SMAP, Sentinel-1, Sentinel-2, these comes and Landsat and all. So we are combining multiple satellites to estimate soil moisture at a 20-meter resolution and at a Sentinel-1 NDVI at a 10-meter resolutions, and you have to transmit at 30-meter resolutions. So we are taking all open source satellites data sets, and we can provide this kind of resolution at any location on the Earth at soil moisture 20 meter, NDVI at a 10 meter, and you have to transmit at 30 meters. And experience in SADC, as of now, we have done some projects in Egypt and all, so earthquake modeling and all. So we can do in SADC. Till now, we haven't done any projects in SADC. But I have one presentation where we can do some VHI. I have shown. I'll show one more time. Of educational health indexes we can do in SADC region, and also we can do estimate soil moisture at fine resolutions on this at these locations. And so we haven't done any projects in SADC. I'll come to Christina's question. And the satellites is all NASA's and ESA satellites we have taken, open source satellites. Is it answered all the questions?
Thank you. We're going to go to Pedro now for questions.
Thank you. I just heard initially, my question relates to your business model. Okay, could you just said that your targets are businesses, you expose a whole host of them. I just want you to expand a little bit on your business model, the cost structure, and how do you think if you expand it in Africa, most specifically in the SADC region, how do you think you're going to implement this business model? Would you please expand on that? Thank you.
Thank you, Pedro. Over to you, Nelly.
Yeah, thank you. So Pedro actually asked the question I had in mind, and in addition to this, I would like also to learn a little bit more about your expansion strategy overall. So how much it will cost, and what channels will you use for that? And also, how are you financed? What revenue do you have from the data you sell for the moment. If you have some numbers about your current traction, that would be great to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Nelly. Okay, back to you, Pramod, for those questions from Pedro and Nelly.
Thanks, Hilary. For this, first for the DOISI question, I want to show one more slide where we have nearly some 20 plus slides already we have in across the other locations. So through Bosch we are delivering projects in Mexico, Norway, and Sweden and all. So KSNMC is a government organization of Karnataka state, and DG Farms is a company from Brazil, and Adani. For this we are doing some water resource projects in India and other states. And we are also collaboration with IISc Bangalore, and we have done projects for IIT Kharagpur. So also we are doing from projects for Marico, CH. Already I mentioned we are delivering soil moisture to the UK, and cattle also one model. For this we are delivering various like crop insurance, earthquake insurance, and also this a company called Newport G, which is situated in London. So other startups like Cultivate and all, so which are delivering this kind of our solutions. What do delivering like soil moisture, crop health, and other to the farmers. So they're doing crop advisory using our solutions. And our cost structures, like we have some different structures. If any crop advisory companies there, so we are taking nearly some hectares wise taking. So 10,000 rupees per month in INR we are taking. So it covers 1 hectare around 1 square kilometer of area. Actually, and also expansion we have. So we are first year we got near some 20 lakhs of revenue in INR, and second year we got nearly some 1.5 crores of revenue. So we have expertise also. We have financial freedom is there, so we can expand in SADC region. And we have already done attractions of nearly some 20 plus customers are already having. So we have attraction in this different segments. Yearly we have 4 segments like water resources, agriculture, crop insurance, and healthcare sectors. In healthcare sectors we are doing big data analytics. So these kind of things we are doing. And also we have a channels like 2 delivery channels. One is like we have developed a Vati called, which is a web portal. Through this, any user can download the process data at any locations on Earth. And also we have through API links, we are delivering the datasets. Yeah, Hilary.
Okay, thank you. And now we're going to turn it over to Parmesh for questions.
Okay, thanks a lot for your presentation. Who are your competitors in this space? You know, India is full of data companies in the tech space. So who are your competitors and what distinguishes you from your competitors? And you know about the Africa landscape also. We had some very good presentations here. So what is your USP, unique selling proposition of your approach vis-a-vis your competitors? Thank you.
Thank you. And now over to Natalia.
Yes. I'm so sorry about our technical issues, but great work that you're doing. How much money have you raised? I know that as a startup, you're looking to raise more money. So what are some of the things that you're doing in order to do this? There's a lot of social investment VCs, but have you gotten any grants or anything like that you can actually be able to look at? I know that Norway has been doing some great work and I heard that was an important project, but from a private perspective.
Thank you, Natalia. Okay, back to you, Pramod, for answers.
For this competitors for this Parmesh, I want to show one more slide. We have 2 slides of this. For this. So there are 2 kinds of satellites. One is optical and one is microwave. So in optical satellites, which cannot work in due to cloudy seasons, and so they cannot penetrate to the clouds, and we cannot get information of Earth's surface during the cloudy seasons. So you can see in the 1st January, so there will be a cloud cover in SADC region. So during this time, the optical satellites datasets cannot penetrate, signals cannot penetrate to the clouds. So we cannot get clear information at this time. And also in India, if you consider in July, there will be heavy cloud coverage over the India. So optical satellites cannot work. So our USP is like we are expertise of micro remote sensing. Micro satellites which can wavelengths can penetrate to the clouds, and it can get the information of the Earth throughout the year. So we have the expertise of this. And one more. So we can deliver datasets in a real time. So we can combining. So tomorrow's images will be taking, and today they'll be delivered. So otherwise, if satellite is processing today at any location, so we're combining this kind of satellites images, and we're delivering. Tomorrow morning will be delivered. So within the latest 24 hours, we're delivering the datasets. And also we are using micro satellites and passive and active. So combine these kind of satellites to improve the soil moisture resolution also and the quality also. So currently the people are delivering nearly 1 month of their taking time to deliver the datasets. But we are combining multiple satellites so that resolution can be improved, and also temporal resolutions can be improved, and we are delivering early. And also for coming to the grants, we have got a grant of 48 lakhs from the Indian government, like biotechnology ignition grant. So we got it for 18 months. And also we are a bootstrapped company, and we have invested nearly some 30 lakhs in that. And also there's a program called Maitri, which is 5 startups from India and 5 startups from Brazil will be joining together, and they will be Brazil startups will be they will be visiting India, and our startup will be visiting Brazil. So we have got the Indian government has selected us, and also there is one more called Social Alpha program, which we got selected in that. We are among 12 innovations. So we are analyzing the problems faced by smallholder farmers in Uttar Pradesh state of India. So we are building solutions around them, and also we are incubated in a IKP Innovation Knowledge Park which is Hyderabad, situated in Hyderabad, India. So we are in that. We are incubators. Incubators in that. Yeah, Hilary.
Thank you. So we have a few more minutes left. Do any judges have additional questions they'd like to ask?
Hilary, I think I just have it's not a question. I think I need a little bit of clarification. I asked about the business model. You told us what you guys are doing, but you didn't actually tell us how you guys are doing. So I think if you could clarify on that exactly how it's, you're designing and trying to implement your business model, that would be great. I just need a little bit more clarification, because you just showed us the companies that you're working with, the rest of the world, but we really want to know, how are you going to do it? Should you roll out in the SADC region? How do you intend to do that? So that, I think I need a little bit of clarification on that. Thank you.
If there aren't any other questions, you can go ahead, Pramod.
So we have different segments. So we are doing some projects like crop mapping for different kind of products, companies who need only information of the special level at different locations. So this kind of companies, like, they want data from business we are doing business to business. So they need information without going to the at any location. So we are providing these kind of solutions. One more is agro advisory companies. So we are delivering our solution like crop health monitoring, soil moisture, and evapotranspiration at a farm level to the companies who are delivering to the farmers. So they are the mediators between us and the farmers. So they are improvising our data sets, and they're delivering. So there are other companies. So we have one more portfolio called flood drainage study. So we are also doing these kind of solutions companies who are implementing or building solar power plants. So we are doing flood drainage study for them, and we are getting a business from them. And also we are doing something for projects for IISc Bangalore and IIT Kharagpur. So these kind of research institutes also giving some projects. So these kind of things we are doing. So actually we have some pricing model is there. So if any company who wants our information on a daily basis or on a weekly basis on temporal resolutions, we are considering nearly 1 square kilometer of area. So he has to deliver, include all the products like soil moisture, vegetation indices, and evapotranspiration. 10,000 INR per month he has to give. So we can deliver this kind of enforcement at any locations. This is the pricing model we have as of now.
Thank you. All right, that's all the time that we have for Q&A. But we want to congratulate you on making it to the Shark Tank round and for being a top innovator in this innovation challenge. We'll be sending you a certificate shortly for top innovator, and you'll find out the results on Monday. Thank you. And now we're going to take a quick 5-minute break, so we'll get started at 11:33, just a few minutes past.
And as an institution, we are kind of laser focused on, as a development organization, laser focused on the SDGs, but our practice in particular very much focused on the SDG 2, which is really trying to zero out global hunger. Quite a challenge. If we think about right now, we're losing ground on that rather than gaining ground. I think in the past 5 years, we have there's about another 35 million people that are food insecure, go to bed hungry. It's really about increasing productivity, but also figuring out how we can reduce losses and build resilience in agricultural food production systems.
Did you see presentation?
Capable of meeting the needs of.
I don't know what happened. Suddenly, he told we present.
By 2050,
His voice was not.
I think it's about almost 10 billion people on the planet. There's a lot of mouths to feed. So it's really about adapting systems to be more climate resilient. Well, a good question. I think that's what we're here to try to figure out with this innovation challenge. Fortunately, there is a smoking gun. That's a very I think on first hand, we really need to bring better information and data-driven information and evidence to stakeholders at all levels, including farmer production level, traders in the market, insurers, and policymakers for making decisions, so that we can best solutions that can put in place ex ante basis, mitigation measures that production systems, build resilience in livelihood systems. And I think also improving the smallholders' ability. Smallholders make up the way for production and food security in the region. We really need to, I think, as agriculture is already a risky endeavor, it's only getting riskier with climate change. We really need to figure out how to give them the information they need, the tools they need. There are a lot of legacy investments that we go back to building strong seed systems, good extension so that they know best soil practices, good farm practices, good forestry that can build systems with a diverse base and then diversified shots. Finally, I think there's a very strong opportunity to improve cooperation among different countries. As the scope of risks increase with climate change, I think there needs to be broader, more systemic, more holistic systems that require information sharing, that require resource sharing, and also policies that really meet the need, so that trade food wherever it is produced can move across the region from surface areas, and move away from these quantitative kind of trade bans that really amplify the effects, the adverse effects of shocks. Thank you.
Now, management of agricultural and food security risks is very important for us, as we have a mandate to support our member states to overcome the effects of extreme climate events and hazards of the continent. If you look critically, most of the food security crises on the continent are a consequence of extreme weather events, be it in the Horn of Africa or in the Sahel, and even in Southern Africa, ranging from droughts to floods and to crop diseases like fall. So managing these events is very critical, granting food security of vulnerable populations in Southern Africa, not in Southern Africa, but on the entire African population of agriculture. So
All right, welcome back. I'd like to welcome our last candidate of the day. His name is Benji Meltzer, and he's the CTO and co-founder of Aerobotics. He's going to talk about citrus yield estimation today, and he is from South Africa. So Benji, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that you can share your slides, and then whenever you're ready, we will start the clock for your 5-minute pitch.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Just want to check, can you guys see my screen? The slide deck.
Yes, we can see it.
Perfect. I am ready when you are.
Okay, go ahead.
Great. Thanks. So as mentioned, my name is Benji Meltzer. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Aerobotics, and we're an ag tech company based out of Cape Town in South Africa. We started about 5 years ago by myself and my partner, James Patterson, really with the belief that this type of cutting edge technology can be built locally for local and global customers. Essentially, the premise that we targeted in starting the company was that of early problem detection, specifically in high value crops. So currently, a lot of decisions that are made are completely subjective, just given the challenge in accessing data at scale. Farmers walk through the field, you make decisions on a sort of sample basis in the orchard, and obviously it's a really unscalable and challenging way of doing things. There's a couple of value propositions that we focus on within this sort of chain. There's pest and disease management specifically, and the ability to detect pest and disease early, which have massive impacts throughout the supply chain. And then there's the concept of yield estimates and inaccurate yield estimation. This is referring to farmers' ability to get a sense early in the season of how much they could be producing. And inaccuracies there cause a range of issues for farmers down the line in terms of an inability to plan, as well as an inability to really intervene in the right time at the right place. Interventions here could be things like growth regulation or applying some sort of intervention to make sure that the yield that you get at the end of the season is optimal. We use AI and aerial imagery specifically to target these problems. For this presentation, I'm just going to focus on the yield estimation problem as we think that's the most relevant. Our concept is to monitor every tree on the farm and to analyze and look into the health and the quality of each individual tree. This graphic is a 3D representation of a tree that we've regenerated from some of the drone footage that we capture. We do use alternative sources too, but the drones are the bulk of the data. With this type of imagery, we're really able to analyze data on a very granular basis and provide broad insights across the farm as to where problems are occurring and, in this case, what your yield is looking like. Yield estimation specifically is, as mentioned, extremely inaccurate. I mean, this is a graphic of how it happens at the moment. Farmers walk into the field and you count fruit and you sort of assess them on a tree-by-tree basis. What we generate using our drone imagery is one, much more scalable way of collecting data, and two, a much more objective way of assessing the quality of a farmer's yield. This is a regeneration of footage that we're capturing from the drones, where you can see we're identifying fruits on the canopy of the tree. The way that this works is we send a drone into about 2 or 3 meters from a tree. This is all done using proprietary software. And we analyze that imagery in the cloud and make sense of this to build these aggregated reports. This is the type of data that the drone is seeing. As you can see, we're identifying the individual fruits, and just an example here, we're measuring the size of each fruit in millimeters within about 5 centimeters of accuracy. There's a range of other metrics that we're generating apart from size. So at the time of flight, we're calculating the size of the fruit and building a distribution of that. We're also estimating the color of the fruit, which is another really important metric for growers as it refers to things like ripening. And through historical data and contextual data that we've built, we then forecast that through to harvest to give a sense of what you could expect when when the end of the season comes. This can be used for things like planning labor, planning marketing, packing materials, etc. And this is all going towards building a tonnage estimate for the farmers on a season basis. The reports that we generate are in this type of format where you get distributions, in this case, of the size of the fruit. This is compared against industry standards. And similarly, on a color basis, we allow farmers to build these distributions of color to really get a sense on an extremely granular basis in terms of what their yield is looking like. The way that it works is we do what we call an orchard mapping flight, where we essentially digitize the entire farm, identify every single individual tree and assess the health of that tree. And then we offer these yield flights where we go in two phenological stages during production, and we measure the actual yield of the crop. And these are all combined together to make decisions on the farm. From a business model perspective, we charge 880 Rand per hectare per year in South Africa for the service. And that's a fully serviced option where a pilot comes out to your farm and collects this data. And have slightly different pricing models in different countries around the world. We've grown over the last few years. We've got close to 1,000 growers now around the world. And our revenue has also started picking up substantially over the last few years as we've really gained traction. Just a couple metrics in terms of achievements. The main metric for the company that we use for success is the number of trees that we've analyzed and have in the database. And this is actually today just past 70 million. And we're really continuing to grow this proprietary data set and technology, which is enabling us to become more predictive and prescriptive moving forward. We've got a great team. I mean, as mentioned, James is my partner in starting the business. We've managed to pull in a strong executive team alongside us. And at the moment, the company's close on 90 people with some of the most talented people in the country. This is just a list of a couple of the awards.
Sorry, Benji, you're muted because your 5 minutes are up. Now we're going to turn to the judges for 15 minutes of Q&A. We're going to take multiple questions at a time, so you should write them down. And then, okay, and you've already stopped sharing your screen. We're going to start with Christina for questions.
Thank you. So, and thanks for the presentation. Very, very interesting presentation. My question is, I've seen some dots in the South African region. And so I would like to understand a bit better if you can expand on the partnerships you have there, because that's the region we would be looking to scale up in. And secondly, you mentioned you are using drones and your proprietary software. So my question is the data that you are producing then shareable? Because we would be looking to work with governments in those regions. So in what way that can be shared? Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Now we're going to go to Pedro for questions.
Thank you. I have my question is related to the type, to the AI. You said that you have you're focusing on high value crops, and relating to the question of expanding to the rest of the SADC region, where there are the majority of the crops that are grown are not such high value crops. They are mostly like cereals and all of that. So what is your solution towards that? Do you already have like a software that can measure those type of crops too, or you're just going to, when you're trying to expand into the rest of the SADC region, you're just going to be measuring also high value crops? I think that's the only question I have.
Thank you, Pedro. I'm going to turn it back to you, Benji, for answers.
Perfect. Can you hear me?
Great. Yep, we can hear you.
So yeah, the first question in terms of the partnerships in South Africa, we've been really fortunate. You might have noticed on the one slide to have raised sort of private or venture capital funding over the last few years. A lot of that has been through local partners, the most significant of which is Nedbank in South Africa at the moment. So we've worked with them as a distribution channel to growers to help make better decisions on the finance side of things. We've also partnered with a number of the largest chemical companies who are interested in using this data to assess the efficacy of the products that they're selling and help as an acquisition tool. We are also working with the 3 biggest citrus growers in the country at the moment in South Africa. So, I mean, there's kind of partnerships that we've got throughout the supply chain, from grower to marketing companies, etc., to which has been really, really good for us so far. I mean, sorry, I can dig into that in more detail if you'd like later on. In terms of the data being shareable, it is all shareable in an anonymous and aggregated fashion. So growers agree to a clause when signing up. We use this data within the platform too, in terms of enabling growers to compare their metrics against a benchmark on like a regional basis. It's also very much the type of data that we're using with the likes of the banks and the financial institutions to help make better decisions. So that's something that we're already doing, and it's really where I believe the value in this product is longer term, in capturing things in a really, really granular level, but aggregating them up in a way that decisions can get made at bulk. The next question in terms of the high value crops focus and AI and the rest of the SADC region specifically. So it's a really interesting question, and it's something we've discussed quite a lot over the years. We do have products currently that work on lower value crops. We've also got products that work with alternative data sources. So we use satellite data too, and we use Sentinel-2 imagery, which is freely available and offer solutions off the back of that data. What we found is right now the infrastructure and sort of ability to roll this out into the likes of smallholder farmers and lower value crops just isn't there at the moment. What we've decided to do strategically is use high value crops as a kind of vehicle to develop this technology and collect enough data and refine the algorithms up until a point that we are able to offer as much value to lower value crops over time. So right now the strategy is very much to roll out into these other regions. I mean, we're looking at Kenya in the macadamia space, etc., with high value crops too initially. Sort of field crops and smallholders is too would be something that we'd look at a later stage once the technology and the infrastructure to some extent has evolved to a position to justify.
Thank you, Benji. Now we're going to turn it over to Nelly for questions.
Thank you, Hillary. Benji, the presentation was really good, thanks. I have a question about the competitive landscape. How does it look like? First question. Second question, can you please elaborate more clearly who are your customers? I mean, farmers, it is more or less clear, but what other customer segments do you have and are you selling to already now? And the third question, did you think over expanding your customer base into, for instance, various of into the marketplace model where you can add IE vendors, external IE vendors to analyze the data you proceed to your platform?
Thank you, Nelly. Parmesh?
Thanks a lot, Benji, for a very good presentation. I was just trying to see when you said about not looking at smallholders, have you looked at options of working with large cooperatives on the commodities which you are working on, which are run by farmers, particularly Kenya, macadamia is run by large farmer cooperatives there who aggregate the size because you cannot work with very small holders. So is there a way by which you can work with that aggregated organizations of farmers and then deliver data not at very scattered way, but through nodes like that, which will allow you to enter the farmer segment? I would like to listen to your thoughts on that. The second is that in terms of the costing part of it, the model is really only affordable to the larger farmers or larger business companies. If you want to make this model go to the rest of the SADC region, where the land holdings will be different from South Africa, how would you approach your business modeling?
Thank you, Parmesh. Back to you, Benji.
Perfect. Yeah, so really interesting questions there. I think the first one in terms of competitors, as you're probably aware, it's a very noisy space. I mean, in ag tech in general, especially in the aerial imagery space. And there's a number of technology competitors across the world who are building similar solutions. I think we're very much first to market in terms of the specific solution that we're building, but a whole lot of people are building amazing technology similarly. Within the region, we're the only player who's able to scale this out to growers. We've got a really unique business model, which I haven't spoken about in the presentation with. We build a pilot network of drone pilot operators that are able to go out and collect data for growers. In South Africa alone, we've got about 50 of these companies that we've helped spin up that go and collect this data on our behalf. So our ability to really collect this data quickly and efficiently, I guess on that side, distinguishes us. Another, I think, interesting point on the competitor side is, at the end of the day, we're competing for the farmer's time with any type of technology solution. And it's actually a more common problem that we face than, is there another drone company that offers similar analytics? It's, I've got 3 other platforms that I'm using. How should I know which one to use? And I mean, that's been more of a challenge for us, to be honest. And the way that we're going about that now is by looking to partner with these other companies. There's also some farming aggregation platforms that are getting built that where our type of data, this kind of speciality data on yield and tree health specifically, would form an input alongside other sort of business related metrics. So that's how we're thinking about that challenge. And I mean, I think we're very much acknowledging that we're not going to be the only solution that a farmer uses. So hopefully that answers the competitive point. In terms of customers, yeah, so the farmer is the core user and beneficiary of the product, and we're building everything with the goal of helping a farmer reduce the risk of their operation and live a better life. At the same time, this data is extremely valuable for people throughout the supply chain. And I think tying into the question that comes up just now on the cooperative side, that's actually our core customer. It's more your farming groups and corporates that kind of can really leverage the scale of this type of data to make more meaningful decisions. So in South Africa, we work very closely with a lot of the marketing companies and the pack houses that, I mean, in some cases are the cooperatives that aggregate this data and want to get an insight into what they could be expecting at the end of the season, and really need another solution to offer as an additional value add to their customers and their farmers. It's a very similar model, like I mentioned, that we offer to the chemical providers in the country, where this can be used as an acquisition tool for them, as well as a way to assess how well their treatment is working. Something interesting is actually more than half of our revenue at the moment is coming from the financial services space, where we're working with the banks and insurers who are using this data to better assess risk and make decisions on a more data-driven manner. What we're figuring out is, as you've noticed, there's a whole lot of different players in this world that find value in the data. It's how we position ourselves in the middle of it all and offer value to all of them without kind of cannibalizing our own market. But at the moment, it's kind of a spread. Like I mentioned, more than 50% is coming from the financial services space. The marketplace question, just linked to that, is something that we're considering. It's very early stage though, and I mean, we're only really getting to a stage now where we've got enough data and traction to really consider that type of option. So, you know, fortunately, not too much I can dig into there. So I think I've covered the cooperative question to some extent. I think just to go into a little bit more detail, the core product is this interface that a grower uses to manage their crop. There's a whole lot of other products and APIs that we build that aggregate this data for larger companies to make decisions off of. And the types of functionality that we offer there are things like benchmarking tools. So for a cooperative, imagine a tool where you could compare your growers month on month, what harvest and forecast you could expect from each of them, how they're performing compared to the others, and year-on-year comparisons of their yield. And that's the type of output that we're offering for both the cooperatives and the other sort of aggregators on a farming level. And I think that's almost where the most value is as we get more coverage of a region, this type of data itself is extremely proprietary. I mean, there's no real information with these types of crops at the moment that you can get in season that will give you an accurate estimate of what type of production could be coming at the end of the year. That also actually ties into the last question in terms of the pricing and the costing model. And it is expensive, and it's sort of unfortunately the case with the type of technology that we're dealing with. It does cost a lot to collect this type of data, which is also part of the reason that we focused on these specific crop types, is the value of the problem that we're solving justifies this type of information. But I think a really important point, and the way that we believe that we will sort of be able to expand into lower cost regions, which is actually something that we're trialing in South Africa at the moment, is partnering with these aggregators to offer a shared costing model to the grower, where, and this is a type of work that we've been experimenting with the banks, where there's kind of a shared contribution towards the price from the grower, the bank, potentially the chemical provider. And as mentioned in this whole ecosystem, everyone could get value from this data. And we're putting together models that enable different contributions from each and in return to get access to this data. So it's quite early stage. I mean, we're experimenting with a few growers with that locally, as well as in America, actually, with some of the larger growers. And up until now, everyone's been extremely open from a data sharing and data privacy perspective, which is great, because that's the only potential bottleneck, I guess, to that approach is the privacy of the data.
Thank you, Benji. We only have a few minutes left, so I'm going to let the last two judges ask one question and then give you a minute to answer them. So we're going to go over to Natalia first.
Great presentation. Sorry, let me do my thing. Great presentation. So just a technical question. It takes, you said 6 million trees. How long does it take for the drone to get the information? Just drone technology is just growing so quickly. How is that working?
Thank you, Natalia. And now Hervé.
Thank you, Benji, for your presentation. I would like to jump into on your answers on your answer on Pedro's question. You mentioned that for lower value crop, you will use open source remote sensing satellite data, namely Sentinel-2 data. First of all, I did not understand if you have real customers for this technology. And the second point is, how do you adapt your solution to these 10 meters resolution data? Thank you.
Thank you, Hervé. All right, Benji, we'll give you a minute or so to answer those last two questions.
Perfect. So on the drone side of things, on the yield estimation, we're able to do about 100 hectares in a day per 2 drones. So sorry, that's about 50 hectares a day per drone. Just in terms of context, it actually mentioned it on the one slide, that's about 15 times more data than you're able to collect with being on foot. Obviously, apart from just the speed of collecting the data, the real benefits in the objectivity that you get out of that data from the algorithms that are getting applied to the drone information, opposed to sort of walking on foot through the field, taking notes, if anything, or by hand and making sense of them. So, I mean, the ability to scale is great. I think it's changing all the time with improvements in things like battery technology and the drones themselves becoming more durable. I mean, just on that point, we actually used to build our own hardware over time, but the commercial off-the-shelf stuff has got so good now that we've fortunately been able to move away from it. So yeah, about 50 hectares per drone per day, which is expensive. On the low value crop side, it's not something that we've been pushing commercially at the moment. We've done extensive work in the past with sugarcane growers specifically through the Cane Growers Association in South Africa, as well as some of the large corporates here. It's slightly different solutions. So we build overall health assessments for crop with automation. We have built yield estimation technology. It's a very different approach. I mean, obviously we're not flying a drone and we're not having to count fruit. It's looking at a much sort of coarser level and a broader level. And I mean, we have done work in the past in trying to look at, can we classify whether there is or isn't crop on the ground, what type of crop there is. But honestly, we've just, as a small startup, we've decided that we really need to focus on something specific, and hence the focus on these high value crops more recently. But I mean, who knows, in the future, it is something that maybe we could pick up at a later stage.
Thank you, Benji. All right, that's all the time that we have for today, but congratulations on being a finalist and being one of the top innovators. We're going to send you a certificate for a top innovator, and you should find out on Monday how it went.
Thank you very much, Hilary. Thanks, everyone.
And I want to say thank you to all the participants and judges for participating in the Innovation Challenge. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Martin Guria, to say some closing remarks.
Well, thank you, Hilary. All good things come to an end. And this is the second Agricultural Risk Finance Challenge. The first one took place in London in 2019. This one was supposed to happen in South Africa, but it ended up in the cyberspace. We got 120 proposals, up from 75 proposals last year. This year we got from 33 countries, and it was great to have solutions from within Southern Africa and from outside. We have to say that this team is very happy that we got a lot of new and unknown ideas, and it's a confirmation of the innovation in the region and in all those entrepreneurs that have been willing to work with us. And this is good for the countries and for the bank. Regarding the timeline, on Friday, we will get all the different records and evaluations, and on Monday you will get the results in our website. So please tune in for that. Also, two more things. Next week we'll send you an evaluation form. So please answer the form. We want to improve the way we do things. This one was a little bit different. It was in cyberspace, but hey, we like it and we thank you. And also we want to thank you, just to wrap up this, thank you all our partners. As you know, this would not have been possible without partners, and it has been really, truly a teamwork within the bank, within different units and division on the bank, in the World Bank, and also with great partners such as Draper University, Innovam, Fro, etc. I don't want to name more, but you have them there. It's been great. Thank you so much. We also have had great partners in the media, and they have helped us to make this more, to reach out to around the world. So thank you. And I also, on behalf of Diego Arias, who is not here right now, but I want to thank the whole team, from Niels to Barry, to Cristina Stefan, to Hilary Rizzo, to Cristina Citel, and Ekaterina Naimushina. You all have been great, and it's been a joy to work with you. So thank you very, very much. It's been great. And I'm going to leave here my email for anyone who wants to follow up with the team. You can write me. I will happily distribute it. But thanks again, everyone. It's been great, and we hope to see you on Monday with news. Have a great day. Good night, wherever you are. Thank you.